to order the January 21st Cultural and Fine Arts Commission meeting at 6:01. If Deputy City Clerk could conduct roll call.
Commissioner Emerson?
Here.
Commissioner Momsen?
Here.
Commissioner Van Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Vice Chair Knudsen?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll have the approval of the agenda. Has everyone had time to review the agenda? And we'll ask for a motion and a second to approve.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I second.
Great, and roll call?
Commissioner Emerson?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Wagner?
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 403.
All right, next we'll have comments from the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Under state law, the Commission cannot discuss or act upon matters presented under this item at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to comment when the item comes up for the Commission consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium and speak into the microphone by stating and spelling your name. Is there anyone here that wishes to make a public comment? Note that no one is here, and so we will move on to the next item. We will be skipping presentations in the consent calendar, as there's no items on that today, and move to our regular calendar. First, we have 4.1, which is an update regarding City Council Chambers rotating art program. And I'll turn it over to Tracy, Senior Management Analyst, Public Information Officer.
Good evening, Vice Chair Knudsen. Thank you so much. Just wanted to do a quick update and do it as a formal agenda item in case you had questions or comments that you would like me to take down related to the what we call the long-winded City Council Chambers rotating art program. So as you can see, you all likely remember this program started when Sandra was mayor and wanted to make this room more accessible and also to have more art in our public spaces. And thus this program started where we had first formed an ad hoc from this body that started the first several exhibits for the first year. Initially, we had hoped to do it monthly and very quickly realized that that was not feasible for a number of reasons and went to quarterly exhibits. So as this program has developed, the need to bring in an entity or a person with some gallery experience and also to potentially upgrade the space and make it a more formal program, we did expand the contract for the Sonoma Community Center, which the city has as a community partner for many other things. They do a great number of services for the community on behalf of the city. And so as part of that contract, this program has now been transferred to their very capable hands. So I've had the great opportunity to meet with Vanessa Roglin, who is the executive director, along with Jill Vavanis. I always am going to skip her last name correctly, and Mike Acker, who help with the various exhibits at the Sonoma Community Center, who will be programming this space with the keeping in mind the city's what we've learned over time about what works in the space very well, which is multi-artist exhibits generally, and also community-based exhibits that work very well. We will always reserve a spot out of the 4 exhibits a year for our treasure artists to have an opportunity, as well as our student creative artist. And the student creative artist may be in combination with either all entrants of the Student Creative Artist Award and or other student art. So that there will be some time for that. We're working on a schedule now, and I'll be keeping you updated about that, and there may be kind of check-ins about things, but they have a lot of really great ideas. Of course, they have amazing community connections with lots of local artists. I can see their wheels turning. They were asking all sorts of great questions about the space and what might be possible, and within the confines of, because it's a city building, people can't sell work out of this space, which has been a challenge for us in the past. And also, of course, it's a public space, and so we can't always make sure that people don't touch it and that sort of thing. So we're very excited to be moving forward with this partnership. I think it's going to be great. The first exhibit will be our Treasure Artist 2025 Treasure Artist. We have our 2024 Treasure Artist up now, Margaret Hatcher, and we are working on details of that. So the city staff will still be involved in some of this, but as more of a consult and kind of connector and literal help opening doors and making sure things are going as well as any facility upgrades that we need to make or repairs. So happy to take any questions or anything that you'd like me to impart to our new partners, or anything else that you have to say.
Thank you. We can open this up for discussion and questions. Deb?
Will they still be doing things like Earth Day and trying to do various themes that we've incorporated over the years?
Yes, so that was part of our conversation. They will also coincidentally be taking over the Earth Day photo contest. This year it's going to be largely the city still running the contest with their assistance, and then next year the intent is for them to run it. But yes, that was definitely part of the conversation. How can we do things around Earth Day? Of course, this year because our treasure artist works in a medium with the trash and fashion and some other things that is aligned. So I don't think we have that exactly set up yet, but they have a lot of good ideas. We've also talked about a number of other themes that we have worked with in the past, like Pride, for example, was one of our first themes. We've also done Harvest, obviously, with kind of winter time, or pardon me, the fall grape harvest, and some other, they've gotten a full list of that. So the intent is to try to keep it seasonal in the same way, but it may rotate a little bit. So there may be a birthday or Pride and or Juneteenth was brought up. There's been a lot of different conversations about what that could look like.
Great. I think this is great. It frees up some time on your end, and it's a great community partner. If a community group is interested in showing, would they then just go through the community center, or does it have to be a community center program?
It does not have to be a community center program. There's no restriction on that I'm aware of. I would be happy, of course, to make connections.
Yeah.
I think they did talk about the possibility. Now, we've mostly curated them ourselves, or it's been, the city has had some part in the creation of the artwork in some cases, but they were talking at some point about a juried show or something that doesn't, these are all long-range concepts, but I don't think anything's off the table. Right. If they would like to work with them, like, for example, when we did the Sweetwater exhibit, or if there was a connection with another entity or group that was interested in doing kind of a show, I would be more than happy to make the connection, see if we could work it in. Of course, four shows a year. It's not too many, but I think we probably could program it out for the next 5 years if we like. That would be just fine with me to have a plan. So,
any other questions for Sarah? All right, well, I'll open us up to public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to make a comment on this item? If you don't mind standing up to the podium and stating your name, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi,
Hi.
it's Margot Lowe from the public. What exactly is the format you're talking about? It's shows through the community center?
This is we're talking about programming this room specifically. It's been a task of our commission, and now the community center is going to be assisting with it.
Okay, great. Just curious.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. And that there's no motion on this item. It was information only. So we will move on to 4.2, an update on the Student Creative Artist Award Ad Hoc Committee activities and timeline. This update will come again from Sarah Tracy.
I know, sorry you guys, you're not hearing my voice a little bit longer. So I won't duplicate too much of the information that was in the staff report. I think all of you are very familiar with our Student Creative Artist Program. This year, we formed an ad hoc to review the rubrics that were used for scoring those who entered the award, entered to receive the award. And they have been doing a lot of amazing work. They also, last year, we gave all the interview questions ahead of time because we have a public format where it's recorded, that students are provided the questions ahead of time to make it an even playing field. If in case you were the first student, then the second student could have heard the questions ahead of time because they have to be asked all the same questions as part of this program. So those were reviewed because we realized after using them last year and maybe even the year before that there was some tweaking and maybe some additional ways that we could make this process even better, and certainly better on your end in terms of the scoring. So I know that Commissioner Momsen especially and Maggie Brown have been working very hard on this along with Connie. And the intent today is because this needs to be discussed with the full commission in a public setting in order for you to ask questions and give feedback directly to the ad hoc. The intent is to get your, I'll let, of course, the ad hoc talk a little bit as well in case they would like to add anything to this conversation, but that you were able to give feedback or any suggestions or support or ask anything you want to now, since the Student Creative Artist Award, as you can see here, will be opening very shortly. In February is when we open to receive entries, which will be done online as we have in the past. That is also something that the ad hoc has been working on. The application needed some refining, as we were discovering, just because some things are outdated. For example, we required everybody to give us a YouTube link for their videos, and so there's different formats now that are available for video, and so we don't necessarily need to go through that process, for example. One of the other changes that is notable from last year is we have a lot of multidisciplinary artists in our community, which is so wonderful, and the past practice has been for them to put in one application for all of their art mediums. This year we will be doing a different format in which they will apply. They will do separate applications for every medium. So they will be allowed to. You'll be considering them on that medium, which is the recommendation of the ad hoc. So, without further ado, Morgan and Margaret, I don't know if you have anything you would like to add. You deserve the floor. They are the ones who've been doing so much work on this, but I will turn it over to you.
Basically what we did is we gave 0 to 3 points per category instead of 0 to 10, because going all the way to 10 leaves a lot of room for like personal bias and opinion, whereas 0 to 3 is like they didn't meet it, partially met it, or went beyond. It's much more objective. And we made all categories, like whatever medium, the same point value. So there's like 6 or so for each if you guys saw the rubric, so they'll all equal. The max you can get will be the max across the board. We also included the interview in the scoring rubric because it tends to weigh in on our conversation a lot about the student artists. So because we were adding that to kind of our conversation about each artist, we wanted to just also include it on the rubric to make sure the students would know that that's something we're going to be discussing after they apply. And as far as the application goes, then we were just kind of matching it to the rubrics, because in some cases it's like upload 2 videos at this amount of time, and then the rubric has something different. So we just wanted to make sure that everything is the same on the application and the rubric. And then we went over the questions for the interview. A lot of those we were having them answer in the artist statement, so it was kind of redundant, like they've already written about this and we have already read it and now we're asking them again. So we just kind of made sure it doesn't, it's different questions we're asking and questions that apply to all mediums, not just like visual art, like what's the size of your piece, because that doesn't apply to all mediums. So we try to make the questions no matter what medium you're entering, or is that the right word, entering? It's not really a contest, so.
Yeah, I think we use the term submitting now. You could
Okay,
see my
thank you.
brain, I was not accessing the right word
Yeah.
earlier, but yes.
So no matter what you're submitting, the questions can remain the same. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, we definitely took a lot of time going over the interview questions, and I think they're definitely more meaningful, I guess, than last year's. So,
Yeah, we try to make it so there's not just like a yeah or no, like they have to really talk about the work in the interview questions. And then some of the rubrics aren't done yet because we're having like none of us were writers. None of us do creative writing on the ad hoc. So we're like asking the creative writing teacher at the high school to like make sure we're going to be evaluating on the right criteria, basically. So some of them are waiting for like an expert's eyes before we're like fully done with the rubric.
Great, thank you. Reviewing it myself, I thought it was really wonderful just to see the creative writing and the dance and the music and making sure we're inclusive of everything. Opening up for discussion, the one item I did have on the interview questions, I just want to make sure that we're asking the same questions to every person. I saw number 2, it said a possible follow-up question. So if we're going to have that as a question, to ensure that's a follow-up question for every single individual, because someone may prep for that question with an answer, and we may have not asked it as a possible follow-up. So just ensure it's all the same. Do you have any thoughts, Scott?
I think that's fair.
Deb?
I have a few questions. The separate applications, I would think that that kind of means that student is actually competing against themselves in multiple potential mediums, and is that really the intent? And I think if a student is capable and creative enough to be an artist in multiple facets, shouldn't they kind of be considered as one with all of those talents? So I would like to know a little bit more about the thinking of why we would want them to compete against themselves in another category.
I think one reason is like they have a better chance of getting the award if like maybe you're a very talented videographer, but you like also dabble in photography, but maybe that's not your strength. So you can, instead of taking it together and letting one kind of weigh you down or lift you up, it's like looking at it separately, like as this kind of artist, where do you rank with other artists, or as this type of artist, where do you rank? Do you have anything to add?
I do have one more added part to that was brought up to me, because this was something that came from the outside, that because of the limitations on how many examples of artwork people can upload as well, that if they were trying to choose between mediums, but sometimes as a artist what they feel most strongly about is not necessarily what would get them the award, but by allowing them as much ability for every medium, because if there's one artist who only does one medium, then they get to use all of that. They can upload 3 examples of that work. But if you have 3 different mediums and you're doing all these, it's a little bit harder to show your kind of skill. That was one of the main sources. And also if you are very diverse and you have performing arts and you have some other type of that was also a recommendation actually from, or a issue that was brought up by some of the entrants last year. That they kind of wish they had it. Now it will be a little different. We haven't done it this year that way before, so they will have multiple interviews as well, which allows them also to focus, because I think that was some of the feedback was, oh gosh, and it was really hard because I answered only for this one and I meant to like also talk about this kind of work, and they felt like maybe they were restricted. So that was kind of the original intent.
That makes sense.
And I think if you're your biggest competition, that's a big green flag. Like if you're your best competition, that shows us that you really did earn it.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
And well, I have another question then regarding the interview. What, how would that be weighted in comparison to the work?
So the interview is just like one category of 0 to 3, and the work is like all other 4 or 5 scoring marks.
Okay. And then one last question. Sorry. The I noticed that the due date is Friday, April 4th. Have we confirmed with the high school here at least that is ample time? Because I know they're working on kind of final projects and everything for their course, and does that provide them enough time to have completed that, or will they kind of be in the finishing stages and won't be ready to submit something?
Yeah, I do need to double check. It is a little bit of, I hate to say the word squishy, but that's the only one that's coming. It's a squishy deadline right now that was kind of based on last year's dates. It is always a little bit of a moving target because I find no matter who I ask, I'm given a little bit of a different question. So I had to work back a little bit from when we will be having those first set of interviews to make sure that I give them enough time to schedule an interview at the right time. And that we are able to, make sure that we have the completeness of all of the information, that we have time to make sure it's uploaded properly and all of that for your viewing. So unfortunately, a little bit of it is caught in the logistics of our needs, but that is something that I'm looking into. We did choose that date because it's a week after they're back in session from spring break, and tried to give a little bit more time in general for that process. I know they are working, which is always a little bit of a problem, but we tried to move it up because when we had it in May, we were told it was too late. But then, of course, they had already that was after when they had their big projects due. It's a little bit of a hard. I'm not sure we're ever going to make everyone happy, but I will be making the best effort.
Great. Do we have any more questions or comments on this item? All right. Is there any member of the public here that would like to comment on this agenda item? All right, no comments, and there's no motion required for this item. So we will move forward to item 4.3, the election of the 2025 chair and vice chair, presented by Monique, the deputy city clerk.
Thank you, Vice Chair Knudsen. So this commission conducts reorganization each year, selecting a chair and vice chair among its members to serve for the year. It may feel like you guys just did this, and it's because you did. Last year, just because of some commissioner member changes, we had to do this mid-year, so that's why you did do this not too long ago. Typically, we do bring this either December or January of each year, so we're bringing it for 2025, so you won't see this again, hopefully, for another year. So the selection process remains the same. I'll open it up for nominations we'll start with position for chair. Anyone can make a nomination. We don't require seconds, but you're more than welcome to voice your support for someone's nomination. When there are no more nominations, we'll declare the nomination period closed, and we'll take public comments. Then we'll take a roll call beginning with the first nominee, and if that nominee receives a majority vote, then they're declared the winner and no additional votes are taken. And then the same process will be followed for vice chair. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. We'll open this item up for a discussion as well as nomination.
I just have a question. Do we know if the commissioners that are not present, if they're wanting to serve?
I have spoken with Connie, and she's interested in still serving as chair. Anyone else that I haven't talked to Lauren.
I did not. I wasn't expecting Commissioners Kershner and Smull to be absent tonight, so I did not think to reach out to them. But I understood that Chair Schlelein had already been contacted, so I did not feel the need to do that.
I would make a nomination to nominate Chair I always say her name wrong, Schlelein, as chair, again, if she would want to serve.
I'll second.
Any further nominations? Perfect. We're closing that nomination period. I will take roll call. Commissioner Emerson.
Yes.
Do we need to do public comment?
Thank you.
Now is the time, if there's any public comment on this agenda item, to approach your podium with the public comment. There's no comment. All right. And now we will do roll call.
Commissioner Emerson.
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Wagner.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0-3. And now we'll open the nomination period up for Vice Chair.
So I'd like to nominate Meredith as vice chair and to have her continue what she's been doing.
Public comment?
Yeah, so we will open up this item for public comment on this agenda item. There is no public comment, so we will now move into roll call.
Commissioner Emerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen.
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion carries 403.
All right, thank you. Next, we will move forward with 5.1 with Commissioners' reports and comments with the Ad Hoc Committee Updates. First, we have a utility box art wrap project, if there's any update on that project.
Well, I can give you a little update. I know the ad hoc, we've been in a little bit of a holding pattern because the public art policy was kind of the first priority. And also as we were putting that together, we recognized that a project like utility art wrap project might be just the perfect one to test out our new policy function. So the council just did their second reading of the public art ordinance that went alongside the policy, which helps us be able to use the ordinance policy appropriately. So there is a waiting period, and I will be developing some of those program tools between then. And then I hope to revitalize this. It was pretty much ready to go at a stage of maybe even going out for a call for art. So we'll probably be reviewing this at our subsequent meeting, and hopefully starting moving forward with artist selections and all those fun things. So we'll be able to tap into the funding that was also part of the issue was last year with our our budget process. You know, we realized we were in a deficit last year, and so some of the funding that we had thought we might have for this project was not allocated the way we had hoped. So now we will have access with our new policy, as this is a temporary art project, to the art fund, public art fund that has a little bit of money, enough money to do a project such as this. So that will of course be coming to you, and then council will also, to expend those funds, will be taking it to them as well. But I understand their support, so I'm excited to get into it. You guys have been waiting long enough, I think. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And so we'll just look forward to that meeting with you to start discussing. Will contact us.
I have a question about that. So there'll be like eventually a call for artists, and then the commission will get to look at all the artists and decide. Is that what's gonna?
That's my understanding, and actually Meredith could probably give you a little bit more detail on that. She was putting together kind of showing me how the call for artists and things like that from other communities. So I think there is a few minor points, kind of like if there's a theme, and of course Caltrans has specific requirements, and which all of those things will be kind of part of the discussion. But yes, it'll come to the commission. And then the commission will approve to recommend the project, and then it will be taken to council for their consideration. It goes to council for consideration because they're the ones who allocate funds. So it will basically be not necessarily to approve the project artistically, but to approve the project for funding. Although they may also have comments regarding that, but we'll be so far down the road that we'll make sure to keep them updated in the process.
Next, we have the 2025 Treasure Artist Reception Ad Hoc Committee Updates. I'm on that committee. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the walkthrough of the community center, but we have set on the date, correct? Can you remind me of the date?
April 4th. It's going to be a magic day, apparently. And Scott, did you want to fill in there a little bit?
Yeah, I think during the walkthrough we were able to establish just exactly what it is that we want to do. We had a rough sketch of a checklist. You know, everything from furniture to food to wine to decorations, dates, and I think we covered absolutely everything. We didn't leave anything undone. So we're pretty much locked and loaded and ready to go.
We are. As a matter of fact, it's even on our calendar on the city's website, sonomacity.org. It is, the Treasure Artist was very much interested in keeping this a free event. It is, because it is of the size of the facility, we are requiring people to register in advance. There is an option for people to give an optional donation if they'd like. Any additional funds that don't go to the production of the event will go to the Student Creative Art Award program, so a good cause. And it's, like I said, April 4th, 5 to 7 p.m. I have already no need for commissioners to reserve tickets. If you're going to bring a partner or a friend or guest along with you, just let me know. I did intentionally set aside those for the people who are sort of required to be there, city staff and council and that sort of thing. So we will be reaching out to elected officials next to kind of do a program. It will not be a large program like last year where we had a full show thanks to Victor's dance group, but I understand Margaret is hoping to have some of her costumes, living costumes, walking around while we're there, among other things. So I have to give a shout out to Lauren Kershner, who is not here, but she has been doing an amazing job. Of course, she's an event planner by trade, so we shouldn't be surprised. Yeah. But it's coming together very nicely. So I will be sending more information out. I had hoped to do it today, but didn't quite get a chance. So you should receive more information about it coming soon.
Yeah. I think the other nice component that we're going to add will be live music. Margaret has an ensemble that she really likes, and she's going to manage getting them to be on site, playing really nice background music. Yeah, during the event. So I think that's going to add a lot. Yeah.
And I think I neglected, the intent is to have it in the secret garden at the community center. If you've been there, there's a really sweet spot tucked behind their pottery studio that has a lovely event space. So that's the intent, is to have kind of a garden party setting. Yeah. If it is raining or something else, I can only imagine, it will be in Andrews Hall, which was available as well. So it would be a different format, but hopefully we won't need to do that. We're just going to put out all the good energy. It's going to be lovely.
Great. I know we don't have it on here, so we probably can't discuss it. The public art policy ad hoc, would we have to discuss it on the next one?
So technically, that ad hoc was dissolved when the policy was approved.
Okay.
But I was planning on giving a little bit of an update in my staff comments when we get there.
Great. All right, then moving on.
Can I ask a question about the event? Are we going to pick or select a crew to help set things up and break things down?
We could certainly use this opportunity to take a poll of anybody present who is not on the ad hoc if they would like to be part of the setup or other parts, although it will be a little different this year. I don't think we'll be serving food necessarily. I think it'll be kind of self-service, but there may be some help. And then I can also send information and ask requests for volunteers at another time.
Okay,
either way.
Great. Yeah, they're going to be pretty liberal as far as giving us access to the site. I think Justin said we could, start delivering in the morning, after 10 o'clock or something. So
if anyone here is interested in helping with setup, would they just email you directly?
Just email me, and of course you'll have staff support as well. You're not on your own.
Great.
We're excited for it.
yeah.
All right, any other questions on that item? Comments? All right, we'll move on to item 6, city staff comments and announcements. Do you have any further comments or reports?
So Vice Chair Knudsen, if commissioners wanted to give any updates on any of their reports as well, I know we kind of put them together, and sometimes we forget with the ad hoc that also individual commissioners, if they have any updates, are welcome to give them as well.
Any other reports or updates commissioners would like to give?
Sonoma Clean Power is going to do another art exhibit in 2025, and we're actually kind of looking for a different art curator, and we showcase local artists for the exhibit. So if you happen to know of a curator that might be interested in getting involved, let me know.
Great. All right, thank you. We will now then move on to city staff comments and announcements for any further comments or reports.
So, speaking of public art policies, the public art policy was approved in December by City Council. There was a lot of wonderful support. If you didn't get a chance to watch that meeting, it's worth going back and at least listening to the City Council members' comments. Speaking about the public art policy, but really about the commission and the work you are all doing, not just the ad hoc, but there seemed to be excitement for the policy and what it could mean, and there's a lot of support in general for public art. And also, there was certainly, I'm used to getting a lot of questions. How can we maybe give you more money is not the question I was expecting. There seemed to be some support in looking at funding options and finding ways to bolster that public art fund. So I know that was something that was of interest of everybody on this body, and there was a lot of good support for that. They also did do the first reading of the ordinance, as I mentioned. Those two things kind of go together to be able to be useful. And I think technically after the second reading, it's like 30 days before it's law. But I need the runway to get some ducks in a line to be able to start getting the program in place. But if I understand that maybe Vice Chair Knudsen has a question, or wants to mention anything else about it?
I was just curious with the policy, speaking of with the utility boxes of the funding of it. So if, we could get an overview of the funding to start to plan utilizing this policy moving forward would be great.
Indeed. So it's pretty easy. It's an easy calculation. Because we haven't had any projects that fit into the 1% allocation to that fund, there were none of those. Also, City Council, until the last 2 years, had declined to include the up to $25,000 of general fund expenditures into that fund, but they did the last 2 years. So that means we have $50,000 technically in that fund currently. So that will be the kind of budget or available funds at this time. And then, of course, we run on the fiscal calendar. The fee study that we had discussed, because the recommendation from the ad hoc was to also do an additional 1% assessment on any building project, non-residential project. There was some discussion that they would even be willing to consider some residential in that consideration of the fee study. So the fee study goes on. They give all the permutations of how much money this might not only raise, but how much it might cost a developer or somebody who's going into it, and they will weigh those things out with like the fees that the city charges for everything. From cemeteries down to special event permits. Those are all attached to various programs and how much it costs for the city to be able to perform those functions, and then that's how a fee is decided. So there's a company that is doing that right now. So this is included in that fee study. Otherwise, we would have had to figure out how to do it on our own. So this is a great timing. And then council will consider it as part of the budget process, which happens, we start it really now. And then we'll be finishing it hopefully before July 1st, which is the beginning of our fiscal calendar.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and before I move on, anything else on the public art policy?
Exciting.
All right. So I just have three things. One is, you may have heard that the city is moving to district-based elections. And if you haven't heard, the city's moving to district-based elections. We currently have a system of at-large voting, which means that the entire voting population votes for all of the candidates. Moving to districts means that candidates will need to be living in the district that they represent and then are voted for by members of the community who are in that district, residents who live in that district. So it's a little bit different, being such a small city. That means that it can open up the door to a lot of people who might not have been considering running before, but also we are so small that sometimes are we going to have enough people? So there's a lot of conversation going on about districting in general, but we are moving to that system. Council has been holding public hearings. They've had 2. I believe we have 3 more. I understand the dates are just about to change, but we do have a whole website page on our website dedicated. Well, now it's multiple pages on our website dedicated to it. It's sonomacity.org/redistricting-Sonoma. I will, of course, send this to you in email. I meant to. They were all gone. I was surprised. I had handouts, and I was like, oh, I'll just grab some that are here, but they're gone, which is great. People are interested. There are two things that we're asking from the public right now to do, and we would highly encourage you all to do this as well. We are trying to identify what are called communities of interest, which is, I won't belabor you too much, you can look this up, but basically communities that maybe share a commonality. They use examples like, students living next to a school, or a certain community that uses a certain facility, share of language, a cultural resource, other kind of, maybe it's a historic district, maybe it's a downtown, things that kind of identify these little areas so that they can be sure to be kept together in a district rather than kind of separating communities that have kind of commonalities. So we have forms in English and Spanish now. Tomorrow I'll be uploading it, as well as on our website. It can be translated there. Online's the easiest way to put in those forms if you'd like. Second is we are actually asking folks to draw their own district maps. Right now the council is considering either a 4-district, so there would be 4 districts, and one of the positions would be a mayor that is voted at large, meaning that everybody would vote on the mayor. Right now our mayor is selected from our city council members, and it kind of rotates generally, so that would change that a bit. Or it will be 5 districts, and it will be a similar situation to what we have now with the mayor. So we have a tool called Districtor, which allows you to go on and literally draw districts so that you can give an idea of, like, you think this is a community that all needs to be together, and they have all sorts of information on there on how to consider what should be in districts. It requires population to be equal, not size or square mileage. So it's interesting to play around with it because it's based on census tracts too, so you can't get real granular. It's based on these blocks, but you can kind of see where the various population centers are, and it gives a lot of other kind of information in there. So very worthwhile, and I know we ask a lot of you and always are wanting public engagement and everything, but this is a very important piece. Our districting, and then in 10 years when we redistrict, these are times that we really are hoping that the community has a say in what their districts look like and where they are, and to give us information from your perspective on how you feel and what you want to make sure in these communities of interest and various things are important. So highly recommend you do that. The other 2 things are happening on the same day, so it'll go fairly quickly. Thursday, January 30th, which is just over a week from now, we are having the annual goal-setting session for council. It's going to be held at the Lodge of Sonoma, and this is an all-day meeting. It will be televised, where council talks in a public setting. They kind of usually do a little bit of review of last year. They look at kind of this next coming year, and they set their council goals. For us as a body, we take our direction pretty much from those council goals. So if council sets a goal of something that has related to this body, then we will be, certainly putting some more emphasis on that, and vice versa. If things are not put on that goal setting, then maybe there will be other kind of goals happening. So that is happening on the 30th from 9 to 5. It did not last till 5, but we always hold the room in case we have a long discussion. And then 10 a.m. is what time, because it's a public meeting, there will be public comment. Any member of the public is welcome to give a public comment to City Council. Again, this is kind of council goals, which will impact budget. So certainly with passage of Measure T, thank you everybody who passed Measure T, which was a 0.5-cent sales tax that was on the ballot this last November. There will be discussions about how those funds will be allocated. There were a number of things that they had hoped to do with that money, including, there was talk of developing a Parks and Rec department, which looks like we will be going out potentially for a director for a Parks and Rec department, which the city has not had. So that will certainly be something that will impact this group as well. So if you really just haven't had enough of the city, that very same night, you could go to the general plan land use meeting, which is at the Vintage House from 6 to 8. This is where this map, that is our land use map. As we are updating our general plan, some of the land use may change to align with certain goals or to help either build more housing or protect green space, or the land use doesn't necessarily mean all one. It's going in any particular direction. But this is something that our community development department has been working on very diligently for the last year, and now we are at the process of starting to consider that land use map. So very interesting, again, process that's been going through, and if you can attend, I'd highly recommend that. And I think that is all for me, unless my colleague here has anything additional thing that I was not thinking of.
I don't.
Okay, and that's it.
All right, thank you. I will now adjourn this meeting. It is 6:46. Thank you.